Hi, this is Michael Buffer, and welcome to the BoxHard Podcast.
Hello, everyone. This is Mikey Garcia.
Yo, it's your boy, the odd guy himself, Malik King Scott.
Hi, I'm Charlie Edwards.
This is Fast Eddie Chambers, and you're listening to the BoxHard Podcast with my main man, Joey Coastman.
Hello everybody and welcome to episode 149 of the BoxHard Podcast. I'm your host Joey Coastman. I'm joined as always by the man himself, Mr. Ayaz Sumra. Ayaz, how you doing?
I'm good, Joey. Yourself?
Very good, my friend. Very good. Let's dive straight into the review part of the show. As always, let's waste no time. We're going to start at a venue in Mexico, actually, in the Centro de Usos Múltiples in Los Michos. I think it's Los Mochis, actually. It really started quite well there, then kind of fizzled out. The Spanish doesn't do me too much justice there. Carlos Burgos, he actually picked up the vacant WBC Latino bantamweight title. It was also his 37th win. He's got 3 losses and 1 draw. It was a technical decision after 7 rounds against Ricardo Nunes. The referee deducted 1 point from Nunes in the 3rd round and also another point in the 6th round. Burgos was actually cut over both eyes from head clashes. So a technical decision there. I'm guessing probably the cut from the headbutts on Burgos ended up halting the fight. That's it for Mexico. Moving over now to the Grand Casino in Hinckley, Minnesota, USA. One fight to mention over here, actually. Hasim Rahman Jr., the son of the former heavyweight world champion, he moved to 6-0. He's also a heavyweight, by the way. It was a unanimous decision over 6 rounds against Raymond Ochieng, who now has a record of 26-22 with 3 draws. It's a bit of a shame there, actually, because Ochieng's the kind of guy that either knocks you out or gets knocked out. Not many of his fights go the distance. Hasim Rahman, I believe that is the first time he's gone 6 rounds, so I actually expect him to probably knock this guy out before 6 rounds, but he banks the rounds. It's still very much the early learning part of his career. 6-0 now, like I say. Moving over now to Puerto Rico in the Coliseo Tomás Donés in Fajardo. That was beautiful. One fight to mention over here. Subriel Matias. He has now moved to 11-0. All 11 wins by knockout. He actually knocked out the former Amir Khan bogeyman, Mr. Bradis Prescott, who's now 31-14. It was a TKO in round 4 for Subriel Matias. He may be one to watch. Like I say, 11-0 with 11 quick. Moving over now to the big one, actually. It was on BT Sport at Windsor Park, Belfast, Northern Ireland, United Kingdom. Let's start with the undercard quickly. We have Isaac Lowe. He moved to 15-0. He's got 3 very controversial draws. It was a points win over 4 rounds against Jose Hernandez, who's now 4-28 with 1 draw. Conrad Cummins picked up win number 14. He's got 2 losses and a draw. It was a win against Nicky Gemman on points over 6 rounds. Sam Maxwell moved to 9-0. It was a retirement, actually. His opponent, Chris Truman, retired on his store after 3 rounds. A good win there for Mr. Sammy Maxwell. Marco McCulloch moved to 20 wins. He's got 4 losses. It was a points win over 6 rounds against Jordan Ellison. Lewis Crocker moved to 7-0, a points win over 6 against William Warburton, one of my favourite journeymen. That's his 138th loss. Luke Keeler picked up win number 15. It was a points win over 8 rounds against Dwayne Grant, who only had a record of 2-4 with 1 draw. Like I say, Luke Keeler now 15-2 with 1 draw. Stephen Ward beat Steve Collins Jr. for the vacant BUI Celtic light heavyweight title. So that was an 8-round points win there for Stephen Ward, now 8-0. And now the big main 3 fights. Let's talk about Ayaz. We're going to start with Christopher Rosales against Paddy Barnes. Actually, obviously Rosales, the man that that dropped Andrew Selby in the first round of their fight and then went on to lose pretty much everything after that. And then, of course, one of his other losses came on British soil also against Cao Yafai. And then one of his other losses, I think, was very early on. It was on points. He come to the UK once again, and he won this time, obviously, a KO in the fourth round against our very own, or Ireland's very own, Paddy Barnes. But I like Paddy Barnes. When I say our own Paddy Barnes, I'm talking about the fact that he's been on the show before, so he's a part of the BoxHard family now. He was KO'd by a right hook to the body, a little bit of a step too early for Paddy Barnes. It was a shame though, because he dared to be great, of course, but ultimately it just wasn't to be his night.
Yes, it wasn't his night, but I mean, obviously, it would have been a dream come true for Paddy Barnes to win, obviously, because it's in Belfast, obviously his home country as well. But with Paddy Barnes, obviously, it's his sixth fight. I mean, it's still a learning game. He's got a very good amateur background. But I mean, it would have been nice for Paddy Barnes to win this. But I mean, he'll come back, and I think he'll win a world title in the future.
Hopefully so. I do like Paddy Barnes. It just, I don't know. It's hard to say because I think he had the beating of the guy, but the size was such a factor that he just couldn't deal with it. And the fight itself, I mean, Paddy Barnes was having to mix it up early on, and that was the wrong tactics, but I don't think he really had a choice. When he got in there, the way that Rosales was putting the pressure on him, I think, he made him fight when he didn't want to, and, that was just never going to work out well for Paddy Barnes. Obviously, he had a bloodied nose in the very first round, I believe it was. It could have been the second, actually, but very early on. Like I say, the size difference, Rosales literally looked about 3 weight classes bigger than Barnes. He was much stronger. He certainly had more power on the end of his punches, it would seem. Barnes then, in that fourth round, he landed his own body shot, but then he left his own body wide open for a big right hand, and it literally landed right in the solar plexus, right in the middle, right on the button of the belly button, and Barnes just went down like he got shot, to be honest. I mean, the bell went literally a couple seconds later, so if Barnes did get up, then he'd have been saved by the bell. He'd have gone straight onto his stall, but he just could not get up to save his life. He really couldn't. But very sad to see him get knocked out like that. It was a beautiful body shot, though. Take nothing away from Rosales. Success finally comes for him in the UK. But yeah, Paddy Barnes, it's kind of hard to work out what he does now, because obviously he's quite an old guy at that weight. I mean, he turned pro very late. He was at 3 Olympics, which is a 12-year cycle. He's turned pro now, obviously, and he wasn't even ranked in the top 15, but, Frank Warren did his magic, and he managed to get him the title shot on some kind of special contract clause. And, the special condition got him the shot, but unfortunately he just wasn't at the races. I mean, he's got the fantastic amateur career, and obviously he's a much better boxer than this guy, but he just could not deal with the size at all, and he's kind of had to, go full steam ahead with his pro career, because like I say, he turned pro at quite a late age, a little bit like Joe Joyce. He's got to kind of go for it straight away. The only thing is, Joe Joyce has had the learning fights. Paddy Barnes hasn't really fought anybody of note at all just yet, so I don't want to say it's to be expected, but it kind of was, because he was the massive underdog in the bookies, Paddy Barnes. But we dared also on the prediction league, as I went with Barnes on points. You actually went with Barnes by knockout. We were very, very far off of that. He was probably winning the fight after 4 rounds. Well, after 3, because the 4th didn't actually get completed. Almost did, though. But, I mean, it's a shame, because he would have probably won that 4th round as well, but unfortunately he could not get up at all. So a good win there for Rosales. Take nothing away from him, and the listeners, we can't take anything away from them either. They got it right. They went with a Rosales knockout, and that is what happened. Moving up the bill once again, just quickly there, Rosales now 28-3, Paddy Barnes now 5-1. I'd like to see him in there with Sonny Edwards. That'd be a brilliant fight. Also on the bill, let's save Carl Frampton till last. Let's pay him his dues here. We're going to talk about now Tyson Fury. 27-0 he's moved to here, with a points win over 10 rounds against Francesco Pianeta Ayaz. 35-5 now with 1 draw. We all went with Fury by knockout. I think you said it was going to probably be about the 4th or 5th round. I said about the 8th or 9th. I did say that he was probably brought in to go rounds, and I didn't think it'd be early at all. And to be honest, as the fight went, it seemed like the knockout just wasn't going to come. And then, in that 10th round, obviously, he survived the round completely fine, and that was it. It went to points, so we all got that one wrong. Just the fight itself, though, I mean, it was pure dominance from Fury. I've got to be honest, I don't think he really... he really went for it. I don't think he really overexerted himself. And as I said last week, I thought that, Pianetta was brought in here to be quite a durable opponent and take Fury a few rounds. We all predicted a knockout, like I say. He didn't really seem to tire, in my opinion, although some people think that he did. But I felt that he probably answered a lot of questions, not just to the fans, but also to himself in terms of conditioning. He certainly proved himself of having a decent gas tank, and even if he's not in the best shape, but he didn't do too much in southpaw, which I found a little bit surprising, to be honest. Usually he likes to really go into southpaw for long periods in a fight, but this fight, I think the first 10 rounds he fought in orthodox. Oh, sorry, not the first 10, it was a 10 rounder. The first 8 rounds he fought in orthodox, and then the final 2 he seemed to switch it up in southpaw. Obviously, Pianetta was a southpaw, so maybe that was the reason that Fury fought in orthodox the most. But yeah, I mean, a decent win for Fury, won every single round. I feel like he certainly needed those rounds before obviously signing for the fight that he signed, which we're going to get onto a little bit later when we mention the news. But he certainly needed the rounds. And this fight here, it was decent. I mean, he took a few shots as well. And to be honest, I'd like to see him probably have 1 or 2 more before the fight that we're going to talk about. But the time's not there. He's going for it. So all the very best to him. But yeah, a dominant win. It just wasn't the most captivating fight I've seen. What did you make of it, Ayaz? Fury Pianetta.
I mean, it wasn't the greatest fight, but to be honest, we all knew that Fury was going to win. I personally thought he was going to win. I think he was going to do it in style. But I mean, it's good that he went 10 rounds. The reason why it's good that he's gone 10 rounds is because it's that ring rust that he's had for such a long time. We're going to be talking about the big fight that has just been announced, obviously, which is the big one, and I think that's gonna help him advantage. Obviously, with Fury, he looks in good shape, but he still needs to lose a bit more pounds. And obviously, I personally think before the big fight, I personally thought he should have fought in April time, and I personally think that he should have one more tune-up fight before this big fight. But I think it was a good win for Fury. Well done to him at the end of the day.
Yeah, for sure. All the very best to Fury. 27-0 now, and yeah, I mean, he's got his 2 wins. It's probably a little bit soon. Certainly a lot sooner than what we were all led to believe. Because if you listen to these Eddie Hearn interviews, he said that Fury didn't want to fight any big fights or any challenging fights. He wanted to fight a bunch of bums, basically. And then Fury himself said, it's not all about jumping straight back at the big time. I'm going to probably have 4 or 5 fights, and then we'll see where I'm at. And, he's completely not done that. He's not followed the script. And to be honest, can we really be surprised? He likes to do things on his own terms, and all the very best to him. Fingers crossed, man. Certainly fingers crossed. But yeah, the main event here, we've paid Carl Frampton some respect. We've put him last. We've put him as the main event here. It was for his interim WBO World Featherweight title. Carl Frampton now has a record of 26-1. Luke Jackson 16-0, now 16-1. He was down in the 8th round, Jackson, and he was TKO'd in the 9th. Frampton was very, very sharp, but I don't think he really completely went for it either. I think he had a lot left in the gas tank. I think he certainly gave this guy, Luke Jackson, a lot of credit, and he didn't overlook him, even though everybody was literally in Frampton's ear about the Warrington fight and this and that, and everyone kind of thought that Frampton would be overlooking this guy, and I think we all kind of thought that. Even myself, I thought that Frampton shouldn't really take this guy lightly, and to be honest, you could tell by the performance that he completely didn't. He really did respect Luke Jackson. He completely dominated, though, Frampton, and like I say, when he switched on, he is absolutely quality. And that one night, I think it was his first fight under Jamie Moore, where he really didn't look that good against that guy. I can't remember who it was now, before the Donaire fight. he seemed like he maybe slipped a little bit, but that seemed like he just wasn't really at the races mentally. I don't think he, respected that guy too much. I thought that he'd probably gone into the ring thinking he'd already won that fight, but that's a thing of the past now. Yeah, I mean, Luke Jackson, let's be honest, I mean, he wasn't a world-level fighter. At least he hadn't proved himself to be one at that point. But yeah, Frampton just made Jackson miss a lot. He was countering him, he was picking his shots nice. He was outclassing Jackson. That's really the open and shut of it. And the way the fight was going, it was pretty clear that Jackson wouldn't be able to survive the distance, even though I don't think Frampton was overexerting himself. But he was just... he just had answers for every single thing that Luke Jackson tried, and he did try, so we're going to give him some credit, Jackson. But in the 8th round, Frampton put Jackson down with a nice body shot that, to be honest, Jackson actually did well to recover from. There weren't many seconds left in the round, though, and then in that 9th round, and that, of course, was the final round, Frampton was really starting to land at will, and after shipping a bit of punishment, Jackson's corner made the tough decision to throw the towel into the ring and halt the bout. A good win for Frampton Ayaz. Obviously, again, he's got a big fight that we'll talk about, in the news part of the show a little bit later, but yeah, a decent win there just before the big one.
I mean, obviously, it was a good win, another good win for Carl Frampton, obviously being trained under Jamie Moore now. I mean, obviously, Frampton has got that big fight. He's always been wanted. He wanted his dream that he said, I remember he's watching one of his interviews and he said, my dream is to fight at Windsor Park, and he's done that. He's fought an Olympian called Luke Jackson, and I mean, he done a good job on him, but the big ones that everyone's waiting for, and I think he's going to do it.
Okay, interesting. Let's save that to the news part of the show, Ayaz, but a brilliant fight that Frank Warren's made there. 2 brilliant fights he made. It was a brilliant night of announcements, actually. But yeah, all the very best to Carl Frampton, 26-1. You've got him at featherweight. You've got Scott Quigg at featherweight. You've got Kid Galahad, who I think's 24-0. You've got Lee Selby, obviously just moved up. But we've had such a brilliant bunch of fighters. I may have even left 1 or 2 out, but such a brilliant bunch of fighters there, all from Britain, all at or around featherweight. And it's just a shame, really. I mean, Carl Frampton's obviously fought Quigg. Josh Warrington's fought Selby. No one's really had, more than one fight domestically with a top rival, and no one seems to want any part of Kid Galahad. But yeah, I'd like to see those guys all fight each other. Lee Selby, I think's moved up 1 or 2 weight classes, so count him out of that, bring somebody else in. But a nice little crop of fighters there. All really with the same goal of winning a world title, a proper world title. Obviously, Warrington's got one now, but the rest of them all want that. And it's just weird how they've never clashed thus far in their careers. But hopefully, after this one that we've mentioned there, obviously we're going to talk about it. I may as well just say it: Warrington and Frampton. It's no secret. But after that fight, hopefully we see the winner defend once again in Britain against one of the other guys that I've mentioned there. But yeah, moving over now to the United States at the Westin Bonaventure Hotel in Los Angeles, California. One interesting fight to mention here: a guy who I mentioned last week. He was an Olympian in the 2016 Rio Olympics. His name is Batir Akhmedov. He was 4-0. He got in there with Ismael Barroso. Now, like I say, Ismael Barroso, to take him on in just your 5th fight, you've got some balls, my friend. And Akhmedov certainly had to show his balls. He was down in the 3rd round himself, but then he put Barroso down and out in round 9. So a KO there for Akhmedov in the 9th round of a scheduled 12. Ismael Barroso now 20 wins, 3 losses and 2 draws. Akhmedov now 5-0. Certainly showed some courage there. But like I say, Barroso, a real danger man, had this guy down in the 3rd round. Akhmedov showing his balls early on in his career there. A real gut check there. Brilliant win for him. He may go on to do some brilliantly exciting things. Moving over now to another part of the States in the Maryland Live Casino in Maryland, USA. 1 fight, or 2 fights actually to mention over here. Michael Fox, he was on our show last week, the 6'4" tall super lightweight. God knows how he makes the weight. He actually beat the former world champion DeMarcus Chop Chop Corley, who now has a record of 51-32 with one draw, a unanimous decision in favour of Michael Fox, now 18-0. A very nice guy he is. All the very best to him. Also, top of the bill, Damon Nicholson actually moved to 19-3 with one draw. He KO'd in 6 rounds Isaac Rodriguez, who now has a record of 25-3. This one was for the WBC United States Super Middleweight title. Coming down to the final bill, I believe now. This one happened at the Ocean Resort Casino in Atlantic City, New Jersey, USA. A few fights on the undercard. It was quite stacked, actually. Shakur Stevenson picked up win number 8 of 8. It was a unanimous decision over 8 rounds. He beat Carlos Ruiz, who now has a record of 16-5 with 2 draws. Jason Sosa, the former world champion, the man that lost obviously to Lomachenko in his last loss, he picked up a win here, 21-3 with 4 draws. Now a unanimous decision over 8 rounds against Reynaldo Blanco, who now has a record of 14-5. Jesse Hart moved to 25-1, a real impressive knockout. I've actually seen it. It was a 3rd round TKO against Mike Gavronsky, who's now 24-3 with 1 draw. Gavronsky was down twice in that 3rd round, so a brilliant win there for Jesse Hart. He's looking to get back at the top once again and try and challenge for a world title, whether it be a rematch with Ramirez or not. And the top of the bill, Brian B.Y. Jennings, 23-2, now 24-2. He actually TKO'd Alexander Dimitrenko in 9 rounds. Dimitrenko now 41-4. It was for the IBF International Heavyweight title and the vacant WBO, NABO Heavyweight title. Dimitrenko was really up for this fight, actually. He managed to knock Brian Jennings down in the 4th round, which is quite shocking, to be honest. And Dimitrenko was down twice in the 8th round and then once in the 9th round, where the bout was ended. So a good win there for Brian Jennings. Another gut check for him, and very surprising, actually, to see him down. When you think about it, he went the distance with Vladimir Klitschko, and Dimitrenko, I mean, I don't rate him too much at all, to be honest, but credit to Dimitrenko, but more credit to Brian Jennings for getting the win. But that's really it for the reviewing. Just before we wrap up part 1, the last thing to do, of course, is to welcome our very first guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the new IBF Super-Featherweight World Champion. It's, of course, Mr. Tevin Farmer. Tevin, welcome back on the show, champ.
How you doing, man? Thanks for having me.
It's always my pleasure, Tevin. It truly is. So, Tevin, first things first, actually. I want to go back in time to last year. We're not going to go into specifics about it, obviously, but the world knows that, you ended up being shot in your hand. Incredibly, only 4 months later, you're in the ring fighting for a world title. That was incredible in itself. But in the fight, in many people's eyes, including myself, you more than did enough to win that fight. And obviously, the fight was in America, but shockingly, when the judges revealed their scorecards, you were on the bad end of a split decision and you ended up losing the fight. It gets worse. Obviously, your opponent then went on to fail a drugs test. At that point, Tevin, mentally, it's a very tough thing to overcome. I guess you were probably wondering what on earth you needed to do to win a world title, and how, you got given such bad luck. Did it take a while for you to kind of, get over that whole thing?
I would say it took probably like a month.
Yeah. Yeah, it's obviously a very unfortunate thing, to happen to you there. But, that was all in 2017. I guess it was a bad luck year for you, really. 2018 is where it all changed, of course. You and Billy Dibb finally signed to fight each other. The fight gets made in Billy's backyard of Australia. You travelled out there and fought him for the vacant title. Before the fight, though, you tweeted something along the lines, I think it was in Fight Week, you tweeted something along the lines of, you were feeling real funny about being in Australia. You said that they were on some slick shit. Did something happen that we don't know about, Tevin, before the fight?
It just something. I mean, it ain't let me use my gloves and a lot of other little things, but overall, it was pretty cool. I got the job done, so I'm happy.
And the fight itself, though, Tevin, firstly, you surprised me with how sharp you were straight away. You really didn't need any time to warm into the fight. You started very, very well. You were in control for the entire fight, really. Your reflexes were on point. Your movement, your slickness, your hand speed were all far superior to that of Billy's. But what was it like from your own perspective? Walk us through the fight if you can, Tevin.
Yeah, I feel pretty sharp in the beginning. I think Billy made it a little ugly fight. The way he was rushing in with his head, elbows, and et cetera, et cetera. But I got the job done. I mean, I stayed composed, and I just had to pick my shots, and that's what I did.
And of course, you were able to drop Billy with a left hook in the 9th round. It was a beautiful, beautiful shot. Even though you're a southpaw, you're right-handed, if I'm not mistaken. So putting a man down like Billy did with your left hand in his backyard.
No, I'm left.
Oh, you're left-handed. Okay, I got that wrong then. So to put him down with a left hand, though, obviously you're not noted as a massive puncher, but to go on the road and put a champion down in their backyard is quite a thing. How did that feel? I bet that was pretty good.
Yeah, I actually didn't think he was going to get back up on that. And I thought I was going to finish him, but it wasn't enough time in the bell ring.
Yeah. Now, Billy didn't try too much boxing. I think, as you said, he tried to walk through your shots and land his own. It didn't really work at all. But he did land 1 or 2 good-looking shots during the course of the fight. 1 or 2 of them seemed to perhaps trouble you for a second. Were you hurt at any stage at all, Tevin?
No, I was never hurt. I mean, he hit me with one shot. That was definitely when the referee stepped in. I backed up, and he still swung. That's the shot he hit me with. But I don't think no time in the fight where he really landed a good shot that really hurt me.
Okay. And like I say, congratulations once again on winning the world title, Tevin. On my scorecard, for what it matters, I've got to be honest, I had you winning every single round, a complete shutout. And to do that away from home, especially that far away from home, is pretty incredible. Even more incredible is that you were right back, right back in the gym on Monday. Is that right?
Yeah, I was back in the gym Monday.
Why so fast? No time to let it sink in?
I mean, I don't know. I feel like I have to be in the gym, and when I'm not in the gym, I just feel like I'm missing something. So, it forces me to go back to the gym. That's the only thing. That's what I love to do.
And another thing that not many people know is that actually on fight week against Billy Dibb, you actually celebrated your 28th birthday. Now, I'm guessing being in Australia, you probably didn't celebrate too much, especially with the biggest fight of your life coming up in just a couple of days. But when you got back home, did you manage to do something special?
Yeah, I had a victory party in the birthday bash at my club that I own.
Ah, I never knew you owned a club. Tell us.
Yeah, I own a gentleman's club in Philadelphia.
Okay, what's the name of it?
The name of it is Teasers.
Teasers.
It's 38 West Girard, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania. Girard Avenue, Philadelphia, Pennsylvania.
Well, certainly, if I ever come over to that area, I'd definitely have to hit that place up.
Oh, yeah, absolutely. Just let me know when you're coming.
Now, immediately after the fight, Tevin, you made it pretty clear, that you were happy to take on the likes of Gervonta Davis. Is he the man at the very top of your wish list right now, or are you not really thinking about all that stuff at the moment?
I don't have a wish list. I'm a world champion now, so I'm everybody else's wish list. People want to be where I'm at now. That's definitely the fight that I want, though.
Okay, I like the way you answered that. It's very true what you said. Is he the guy, I'll put it like this, is he the guy that you want to fight most out of all the rest of the guys in your weight division?
Yeah, absolutely.
And obviously Gervonta has shown that his power is real. He can also really box too. You're not known as the biggest puncher, but you're certainly a master boxer. Do you believe that you could comfortably outbox him, or do you believe that you could even make a statement and possibly stop Gervonta for the first time in his career?
I can do whatever I want. I can do whatever I want. Whatever I decide to do, that's what I do. And I know I win the fight for sure.
You win the fight for sure. Okay. And out of nowhere, Tevin, you seem to now have a little bit of a Twitter beef going on with a fighter from over these parts called Jono Carroll. I don't really know where it came out of, but how did that all start?
No, that's not a Twitter beef. I told him that I'd make him famous, so I replied to him.
But is that a fight that is that a fight you're interested in, or is it really just a bit of entertainment on social media?
Whoever wants this smoke can get it. That's how I'm looking at it. Whoever wants it can get it. As simple as that.
I want to ask you, Tevin, is there any specific time that's been discussed as to when you'll possibly next be back in the ring?
Yep, guaranteed this year.
Do you know a month just yet, or not at the moment?
Possibly November.
Possibly November, okay. And also, I'd like to let our listeners know about what you did the other day, Tevin. You went out in the street with boxes and boxes of food. You were handing out lots and lots of free food to the homeless. It's a beautiful gesture. You know, you've actually gone on to say that you're not just going to do this once. This is something that you want to do quite a lot of. Tell us more about your goal in trying to feed the homeless, Tevin. A beautiful thing to do.
I mean, that's I can honestly say that's something I always wanted to do. And I always said when I get in position to do it, I'm gonna do it. And I feel like I'm in a position to do it at this moment. So, you know, I kept my word to myself and I made it happen.
It's a lovely thing to do, I must say. It really is. I also saw you tweet something else the other day about, you know, because you lost 4 of your first 12 fights as a professional, you hope that you've inspired other boxers who've got a few losses to not give up. Obviously, you know, you're only limited to a certain amount of characters on Twitter, but do you have any kind of more direct message to the fighters out there that could be listening to this that have got a few losses and are perhaps thinking about hanging up the gloves? What is your message to those guys to keep going?
I mean, I shouldn't have to say much. My story speaks for itself. I think anybody that's really motivated, or anybody that want it bad, could just read about my story, or anyone that know my story will already know. Like if I was in that position, like which I was once in my life, and I seen somebody with losses and make it to a world title, they wouldn't have to say anything to me. I take it upon myself. They're like, damn, if he can do it, I can do it. If they don't have that mindset, then something's wrong.
But yeah, I just like I say, brilliant for, you know, for handing out the food. Brilliant to send out a touching message like that to to boxers that may be in a hard place at the moment. You've been there and done that and rise to the top of the world now. So unbelievable stuff. And just before I let you go, Tevin, is there any kind of message that you want to send out to anybody at all? Like, is there any closing message or words for the likes of Jono, Carroll, the likes of Gervonta, anything at all?
I ain't got no words for them. I got words for the fans, man. They just keep supporting me, and I'm gonna keep doing my thing.
Yeah, because I know that when you went out to Australia, even though, you know, you kind of beat the hometown hero, if you like, a lot of Australian fans have really took to you now. So you've got a fan base out there in Australia. You've got a fan base in America, of course, as well. And even in the UK. Certainly loved. Yeah, that's it. See, you said it. You know it. You're loved all over the place now, Tevin.
Yeah, I think we're right out of your mouth. The UK. Man, the UK love me. I got a lot of fans and supporters over there.
Yeah, you truly do.
I would definitely like to fight over there one day.
Hey, we need you here. We truly do. We really do, Tevin. It'd be a brilliant, brilliant thing. But listen, it is always my pleasure speaking with you. It truly is. Keep doing what you're doing, my friend. Congrats once again on becoming a world champion, because believe me, it was long, long overdue, and we'll certainly catch up sometime soon, Tevin.
Absolutely, man. Thanks, man. I appreciate you.
Okay, now it's time for part 2 on this week's show. This part, of course, the news part of the show. Ayaz, what do you have for us this week?
Yes, the main news is that Deontay Wilder will face Tyson Fury in Las Vegas.
Yeah, Tyson Fury certainly let it slip out when he was getting in Wilder's face. I mean, that was quite bad. You know, we knew straight away, even though Frank Warren said that all details are going to be getting announced. He let it slip. It's going to be in Las Vegas. A little bit surprised, actually, to see Tyson Fury go on the road. Some people saying it's a bit of a cash out. I mean, there's no way in this world that he's going into that fight actually thinking, yeah, this is a cash out. I'm just going to get my money, get knocked out, and then, you know, retire. That's just not going to happen. He doesn't think like that. He will certainly think he's going to win. And I guess he's probably going over there for the more money, I'm guessing. I mean, that can only be what it is. You've got BT behind him now. I'd imagine that if they used their pulling power, they probably could have done something. But then again, you know, I almost forgot there. Obviously, you've got the champion splits and all the rest of it. So the man with the the advantage in the negotiations would have been Deontay Wilder. So he's going on the road to Las Vegas. We're not quite sure of a date yet. We're hearing lots of rumours about November. If that is the case, then that's not too long. I think Fury went straight on holiday, if I'm not mistaken, after his win. So he really needs to get back in the gym, and he needs to really, really work out harder than he's been doing in these 2 comeback fights, because this is such a monster fight. And to be honest, in my honest opinion, I'm the biggest Fury fan out there. Aside from the Stig, if he's listening in his cab, then he may be a bigger Fury fan than me. But for me, I think it's probably a little bit early, and I think it's very risky. But I certainly can't write Tyson Fury off. I wrote him off for the Klitschko fight, and the way he dealt with him was unbelievable. The only thing is, in my opinion, Wilder doesn't have much boxing skill, so Fury will be able to outbox him without even using up too much sweat, to be honest. Now, the only thing is, what happens when you frustrate Wilder? Because Wilder, time and time again, has been outboxed, and he hasn't really shown any signs of frustration. He still believes he's going to land that haymaker of a shot that he's got in that right hand, where he can just completely knock a building out. And if he lands that, and he always has, every single person he's fought, he's knocked out. Obviously, Stavern went the distance, and then he knocked him out in a rematch. Everyone's been knocked out. Everyone who's fought Deontay Wilder is a professional. So will he land on Fury? I just can't see Fury, as good as he is, staying away from that right hand the whole fight. But if he does, then he wins the fight, no question. He shuts out Deontay Wilder. But it's just a case, can he stay away from that big right hand? Because Deontay Wilder's so unorthodox, he's so wild and reckless, and he won't care about Fury's shots coming back at him. That's another thing. We saw a great technical boxer in Luis Ortiz do what he did, and Wilder had to respect his power. He couldn't go gung-ho in there. And there was a bit of a fear factor that if he went a little bit wild, got a little bit reckless, Luis Ortiz would land. And that is what he did a few times in that fight, Luis Ortiz. He nearly stopped Wilder at one point. But Fury doesn't really have that power. So I think that Wilder will probably see how his boxing goes, but when he realises that he's being outboxed, probably after a couple of rounds, then he goes reckless, because he won't care about what Fury's throwing back at him. And it's just a case, can Fury use his reach and stay on the back foot and just dance around? Can he do that for the 12 rounds? Because if he can, then it's his fight. But if at one point he gets clocked with that right hand, it's night-night Vienna. It seriously is. Just quickly, Ayaz, what's your thoughts on that one before we ramble on too much? Obviously, the fight's not even got a date yet.
I think it's a very good fight, which I think Fury may do it. I think Fury can win that fight.
Okay, short and sweet from Ayaz. I certainly want that to happen for sure. But yeah, the other fight that you've got for us, Ayaz, obviously they announced it a little bit after that. I kind of gave it away there. Frampton Warrington, obviously for Warrington's IBF Featherweight title once again. It's not really, I want to say it's not really been announced as heavily as Fury Wilder. Frank Warren said it's pretty much done. I'm not quite sure if everything's signed, sealed and delivered just yet, but a brilliant fight. We'll talk a little bit more about that if and when it happens. So a good fight there. I'd definitely tip Warrington. Sorry, not Warrington. I'd certainly tip Carl Frampton to win that fight, Ayaz. I'm guessing you'd probably agree.
Yes, I'll agree on that 100%.
Yeah. What else have you got for us, Ayaz? I'm almost reeling off the news myself.
David Price has announced his next opponent, Sean Turner, in Belfast on October the 5th.
Yeah, Box Nation have also bought the rights to that fight. I'm not sure if they need to do that now. They've got a little bit of a partnership going with MTK, if I'm not mistaken. So they've announced, if you like, that they're showing that fight. Do you know what? I think that Sean Turner will beat David Price, as sad as it is, because David Price was such a brilliant fighter at one point, and then Tony Thompson just beat him up, and he's never been the same since. And whether you like it or not, he was pumped with all these certain substances that he shouldn't have had, and everyone that's beat Price has pretty much been a drug cheat, past, present, or future. They've been caught afterwards. So very, very kind of tarnished career David Price has got, and it's not really been his own fault. These guys have been juicing, he's been losing, but it has affected his stock, it has affected his position, it has affected his money, and that's just the way it is. So he finds himself in there with a guy that will certainly come at him, because Sean Turner is a brave fighter. We've seen him go on the road and win, and he is absolutely full of confidence. There's no way in the world he'll be bothered by anything that David Price, would say or can do or anything like that. He will stand there and fight with him toe to toe if need be. Obviously, all the advantages are with David Price: the power, the size, the reach, everything like that is with David Price. But will he fold under the pressure? I mean, we'll have to wait and see, but I'd probably tip Sean Turner to win. And I tell you what, if Price loses against Turner, it's curtains. He's fighting for his career at this point. He's had too many losses now, David Price, all to decent fighters. But if he loses to Sean Turner, who is not a European level fighter or anything like that, if he loses to him, he's a domestic level fighter. If he loses to him, it's over for David Price. So a must win for him. All the very best to him. May the best man win.
Okay, another news that's come out is that Gary Spike O'Sullivan will face David Lemieux on the Gennady Golovkin versus Saul Canelo Alvarez undercard.
Brilliant fight. You'd have to say Lemieux's probably the favourite, even though Spike O'Sullivan's obviously a massive friend of the show, a great guy. David Lemieux has shown on the world level that he's really got that power. The way he knocked out Curtis Stevenson was certainly something. He was certainly respected a lot by Triple G when he fought him. Triple G respected his power, so I know he's got real world-class power. Spike O'Sullivan, I don't think has got that world-class power, but he certainly can bang. It's certainly not a points fight. It's definitely going to end in the distance. I hope that Spike is the one that lands that shot, but he got completely exposed against Billy Joe Saunders, David Lemieux, and that's just not the way that Spike can box. He can't do stuff like that, so he's going to come and fight him. It's a brilliant, fan-friendly fight, and I'm looking forward to it, but hopefully Spike O'Sullivan gets the job done.
Yep, and finally, the last news is that the World Box Super Series will once again do a cruiserweight tournament.
Yeah, the second season's going to be also at cruiserweight. No real idea of what's happening yet with Usyk and all his belts. If he vacates them, then there's just going to be loads of guys fighting for vacant titles, so I'm not so happy about that. And if he doesn't vacate them, then there's going to be no belts involved at all. But you bet your nads that I'm guessing probably the WBA is going to throw in a few titles just for the laugh of it, really, to be honest. That's what I call it, the laugh of it. If you look at the guys that were involved in the first cruiserweight tournament, which brought us some fantastic fights, but it didn't really take the US audience by storm. It did a few things over here in the UK because of the hardcore boxing fans. It did the business in Eastern Europe, but to be honest, it didn't do anything in America. And these other guys that are just under the first 8 that went into the original tournament, the other guys that are just under that, they're even less known. So I don't understand why it's happening again at cruiserweight. Any other division would have been fine. Why is it happening at cruiserweight? In the original cruiserweight tournament, we had Usyk undefeated, Gassiev undefeated, Bradis I think had a loss on his resume. I could be wrong by that. We had what's the Cuban guy's name? Perez. He was in it. I think he had one loss to Povetkin, but he was a good heavyweight. In tremendous shape, a newborn again cruiserweight in brilliant shape. We had an absolute knockout killer in Dultikos. We had an absolute knockout killer in the Russian Hammer. What was his name again? What was that guy's name? The guy that fought Dultikos and got knocked out. Kudryashov, that was his name. So yeah, we had some real killers, and loads of them were undefeated. But now, when you look at the guys, if they're not going to use the same 8, then you're looking at a real sorry bunch of names, and no one really knows about them. Even the hardcore of hardcore boxing fans don't know some of these names. I'm not going to reel them off, but you can go and have a look. If they're not going to use any of the same 8, then the next 8 are absolutely awful. And you've got to bring in people like Steve Cunningham. You've got to bring in people like Jean Pascal, who now fights at cruiserweight. We don't want to see that. And if they bring in the same guys, then who really wants to see those guys fight again? Aside from, there's one fight I'd like to see out of all the guys involved. I wouldn't mind seeing Breedis take on Gassiev. That's the only fight I wouldn't mind seeing. But aside from that, I don't want to see Kudryashov again. I don't really want to see Dorticos again. In fact, Dorticos was quite fun. Fun to watch, maybe him, but aside from that, I don't want to see all the rest of these guys. I'm absolutely devastated that they're doing this. Thankfully, the first time they did this whole World Boxing Super Series thing, there was only 2 weight classes. Now there's 3. So let's just pretend that there's really 2, and this is just a bonus. That's the way I've got to look at it to get through this. Cruiserweight, why? Nobody knows. Only the Sauerland bros. It is what it is. Is that it for the news, Ayaz? My rant's over on that.
Yes, that's it for the news.
Okay, thank you, Ayaz. Moving over now to the Emirates Arena. It's not the Arsenal Stadium. It's in Glasgow, Scotland, United Kingdom. This is an MTK Global show. What do we have on here? One fight really to mention. Ronnie Clark, 21-4 with 2 draws. Recently beat Zelfa Barrett, took his O. He's in a 12-rounder against the amateur standout David Oliver Joyce, who's 7-0. This one's for Ronnie Clark's IBF European Super-Featherweight title. A real good fight there for David. Well, for the fans actually, but for David Oliver Joyce, this is a real gut check. Just 8 fights in. All the very best to both men there. Ronnie Clark, you can't really not like him. He'll fight anyone. He'll turn up with a red ponytail. And obviously it's in Scotland, so he's got that extra push behind him, but he's got fans that will travel all over the UK, no problem, and they won't have to travel far, so I'm expecting a big crowd there for Ronnie Clark. Also on the bill, we have Chris Jenkins, 19-3 with 1 draw, takes on Dara Foley, who's 15-2. That one's for the WBA Oceania Super Lightweight title. We don't usually see that belt contested in Scotland. Yeah, that's really it for that one. A good fight there. That's a 10-rounder, that one. That's it for that one. Moving over now to the Minneapolis Armory in Minnesota, USA. We have Willie Monroe Jr., 22-3. He takes on Javier Maciel, who's 33-6. I think they were supposed to be getting Vainez Martirosyan with a few days' notice for that fight. I'm not quite sure what's gone on there. Also on this bill, we have Jamal James, 23-1. He takes on Mahonry Montez, who's 35-7 with 1 draw. And we also have on this bill the guest on last week's show, Caleb Truax, former IBF Super Middleweight World Champion. He looks for win number 30. His record 29-4 with 2 draws. He takes on Fabiano Pena, who's 15-10 with 1 draw. Of his 10 losses, he's been stopped 9 times. So I'm expecting Caleb Truax to get a knockout here. Also, the brother of Gary Russell Jr., Antonio Russell, his record 11-0. He takes on Nick Otieno, who has a record of 31-14. That should be quite interesting. That's an 8-rounder there. And also, I think he's Ghanaian. He's certainly an African fighter. I think he's also an Olympian. His record's 5-0 with 5 knockouts. His name's Efi Agjagba. And his record, like I say, 5-0 with 5 knockouts. He takes on heavyweight Curtis Harper, 13-5. I remember Harper giving a real decent account of himself to Chris Arreola when he was completely the huge underdog and outsider, and he gave him a real fight. That's a 6-round contest there. Moving over now to the Grand Hotel de Kinshasa in the Democratic Republic of Congo. Ilunga Makabu, the man that got knocked out in Goodison Park by Tony Bellew, his record 21-2. He takes on Taylor Mabika, who's 19-2 with 1 draw. That one's for the WBC International Cruiserweight title. Moving over now to the Gila River Arena in Glendale, Arizona, USA. We have 2 fights to mention on this bill, 2 main fights here. This card obviously shown on ESPN in the States and also on Box Nation in the UK. We have top of the bill Raimundo Beltran, 35-7 with 1 draw, friend of the show. He defends his WBO World Lightweight title against the former world champion himself, Jose Pedraza. No one's really seen him since he got knocked out by Gervonta Davis that night. I think it was back in January of 2017, if I'm not mistaken. That's going off the top of my head there. But Jose Pedraza, a real good fighter, a man that I think at the time we actually tipped to beat to beat Gervonta Davis. But yeah, he came up short there. He got absolutely outclassed and beaten up. And now he's back in there with Raimundo Beltran, a real good fight. And I'm actually tipping Jose Pedraza to get the win here. We haven't gone to the predictions, but I think he wins that fight, even though I hope Beltran wins because he's a friend of the show. 12-round contest, of course, there. And also, we have another friend of the show, Isaac Dogbay. He puts his WBO World Super Bantamweight title on the line. His record 19-0 is his first defense after beating Jesse Magdaleno back in Philadelphia earlier this year. He takes on Hidenori Otaki, who has a record of 31-2 with 3 draws. A good fight there. Isaac Dogbay, I'm expecting to probably actually stop this guy. Very brilliant fighter to watch, Isaac Dogbay. Very exciting style, and certainly a very fan-friendly fighter. Obviously, fighting under Top Ranks banner here. Brilliant little card, that one. And that's really it. There's one other thing to mention, actually. It's happening next Tuesday on the 28th of August. Obviously, at the moment, it's a fight that we're previewing, but we'll talk about the result on next week's show. It's happening in a place called Nakhon Sawan in Thailand, and we have Chayaphon Moonsri. I think he's got a couple of other names, but the main thing is he's the WBC World Minimum Weight Champion. His record 50-0, baby. It is tied with Floyd Mayweather's record. If he wins and he beats Pedro Tajuran, whose record's 12-1, if he wins this, Moonsri, he moves to 51-0. I want him to retire if that happens. He needs to walk away from the sport, having beaten Mayweather's record by 1, and he can retire. I don't want to see him lose anytime soon, but all the very best to Chayaphon Moonsri. Please move to 51-0. Please better Floyd Mayweather's record. It will do us all a massive favour. All the very best to Chayaphon Moonsri. Please get to 51-0 on Tuesday, the 28th of August, next Tuesday. After this weekend, obviously, we'll talk about the result on next week's show. But that really wraps up the previewing. Just before we wrap up part 2, the last thing to do, of course, is to welcome our second and final guest. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome the undefeated high-flying lightweight prospect, Mr. Devin Haney. Devin, welcome to the show, sir.
Thank you. Thank you for having me.
Hey, it's my pleasure. It truly is. So, Devin, firstly, it's an honour to have you on the show. You're undoubtedly one of the, the most promising prospects in world boxing, really. Whenever you're fighting, I always make sure that my listeners know about it. But my first real question is, of course, you started boxing at 12. How did it all begin for you, Devin? Why did you take up boxing in the beginning?
I actually started boxing when I was 7.
Oh, okay.
I was getting into a lot of trouble at school. Even outside of school, I always liked to fight. So I was fighting pretty much everywhere. And, one day my dad took me to the gym because he said, if you want to fight, let's take you to the gym and you're going to get beat up. And every time you fight, I'm going to keep bringing you back.
So, of course, you had an excellent amateur career. Am I right when I say that your amateur record was something like 130 wins to just 7 losses?
8 losses.
8 losses.
130 and 8.
Wow, that really is amazing. Now, obviously, there's an undefeated fighter at the moment with Golden Boy by the name of Ryan Garcia, a man that seems to be very popular amongst the ladies, but he's another promising prospect like yourself. Am I right in saying that you beat this guy twice in the amateurs? Both wins were pretty much shutout wins.
I actually beat him 3 times, and we fought 6 times. He beat me 3 times. I beat him 3 times. He beat me when we were younger. And I beat him as we got older.
And you got the wins in like the bigger competitions, if I'm not mistaken, right?
Yes.
Okay. So as a professional, of course, at the moment you've compiled a record of 19-0, a perfect record. 13 of those wins inside the distance. You've picked up the WBC Youth World title. You've also picked up the USBA lightweight title in your last fight. In that last fight against Mason Menard, you made him quit on his stall. And in many ways, making somebody quit is even better than knocking them out. Obviously, Menard's only other recent loss was to the current world champion Ray Beltran. You must have been very happy with your performance that night.
Oh yes, I felt like I won in the ring. I did everything that I needed to do. I stuck to the game plan, and overall, I got the win.
And like I say, you've got that style where, you know, I saw your hands down there. You were coming at him in lots of different angles. It almost looked a little bit Prince and Nassim like. You know, fantastic performance there. Obviously, you'll be fighting next on. Thank you very much. You'll be fighting next on the 28th of September in California. But when I looked to see who's promoting the show, I saw that it's you promoting the show. You're a promoter now. Tell us about this. You're only 19. It's crazy. Yes,
I'm very happy. You know, I set the bar high. I set the record. You know, as the youngest promoter, and I'm happy to be, you know, promoting my first show.
Yeah, real cool stuff there. You'll be taking on a man called Juan Carlos Burgos, who is a very big step up, actually. Obviously, he's a three-time world title challenger. He's been a pro for almost 14 years. You actually had just turned 6 years of age when he turned pro, which is quite unbelievable. You probably never thought about boxing at that point. But one other fact is that this guy turned pro on December the 10th. You turned pro on December the 11th. Obviously in different years, but I like to pull my facts out when I can. What do you know about this guy, Devin? Do you know much else about him?
You know, I know that when he fought Mikey Garcia, he put up a great fight. You know, it was a competitive fight.
Yeah.
I feel like he hurt Mikey a few times in the fight. You know, so it's a very big step up for me, and I look forward to it. I know it's going to be a great fight.
And this guy's never been stopped on his 3 world title challenges. You know, he got a split draw against Roman Martinez. He lost on points in Japan to Hizumi Hasegawa. And then in 2014, like you said, he lost on points to Mikey Garcia in a decent fight, actually. Not too many people managed to go the distance with Mikey Garcia. So this certainly is a huge step up for you. Will you be looking to make a statement, Devin, at this part of your career? Do you go into fights, you know, trying to do something that other people haven't done to this guy?
Yes, of course. You know, every fight that I go in, I'm always trying to, you know, outdo everybody. You know, I'm going in there to, you know, show the world that I'm a contender, and I'm up there with the top guys, that I can compete and beat the top guys.
And I want to ask you also, Devin, who are you training with now? I know that for a while you were involved with Floyd Mayweather Sr. Who are you training with now?
Right now, I'm just working with my dad.
Are you the only guy that your father trains?
Yes. I'm the only guy. And you know, my dad has always been, you know, working with me ever since I was little. You know, he's been behind the scenes. You know, right now he's my main trainer.
Oh, brilliant! How's that going? Very well.
Oh, it's going great.
Excellent. Now, again, you seem to have had a couple of little feuds with other boxers, and you know, there's one that everybody's seen on Twitter. You've had back and forths with the likes of Shakur Stevenson. I wanted to ask you, are you guys cool now, or perhaps not? What actually happened for all this to, you know, begin?
You know, I wish him, you know, nothing but success. You know, keep winning. You know, and nothing more but success. You know, I don't have a problem with him or anything. You know, he's a young, successful, you know, African American boxer. You know, and I have no problem with him.
Okay, and also I want to get your take on this, and you don't have to answer this question if you don't want to, Devin, but this is a rumor that I've heard before. I've heard that you had a lot of success in sparring with an ex-world champion, or a current world champion now, in Gervonta Davis. Is there any truth in the rumors that we've heard over here in the UK about you two sparring session, or can you not say?
Oh, you know, me and we had some sessions, you know, some very competitive sparring sessions, and you know, yeah, that's all we have to say about that.
Okay. And coming down to the last couple questions, Devin, I like to ask this question to everybody that I speak to from overseas. Do you have a favourite UK fighter? You know, the UK fans like to know this. Are you interested in UK boxing? Who do you like right now, or perhaps somebody from, you know, from history? Who do you like?
I like Josh Kelly.
Oh, okay.
I like the guy who's fighting. Who's getting ready to fight Nonito. What's his name again?
Nonito. Ryan Burnett.
Ryan Burnett. I like him a lot too.
Do you know what? Those are two guys that I probably. Sorry, go on. I don't mean to cut you off. Continue.
No. Go ahead.
No, I was going to say, those two guys that you mentioned there, I'm actually quite surprised that you named them, because not many people would have seen those guys, you know, on the TV over in the States. They don't really have the biggest profiles just yet. They're still, you know, kind of learning on the job, I guess, especially Josh Kelly. I'm impressed to hear you say that. What about these fighters tickles your fancy? What do you like about these guys?
You know, those guys are they come up like me. You know, they're not real big, but you know they're on the come up, and I like their boxing skills. You know, I think they have a lot of, you know, natural ability and great boxing skills. You know? So I'm a fan of those guys.
And lastly, Devin, before we let you go, I just wanted to give you an opportunity to send out a message to your supporters here in the UK. Like I say, every chance I get, I'm always talking about how much potential you've got. Not just myself, a lot of people in the UK, you know, they're big on you. You've got a lot of fans out here. What is your message to your supporters overseas?
You know, keep supporting me. You know, I get so much love from the UK. You know, I appreciate you guys. You know, I look forward to fighting there sometime in the near future.
Absolutely. And where can people follow you on social media, Devin, if they aren't already following?
Instagram, Twitter, Real Devin Haney, Facebook, Devin Haney.
Excellent. Okay, listen, Devin, well, it truly has been my pleasure having you on this week's show. It's always great to speak to a prospect, and you're certainly one of the most promising in world boxing. Best of luck for the 28th of September, and we'll certainly catch up sometime after.
Yes, sir. Thank you very much.
Okay, and this wraps up episode 149 of the BoxHard Podcast. I've been your host, Joey Coastman. Ayaz Sumra has been Ayaz Sumra. A massive thank you to our two guests on this week's show, Tevin and Devin. Tevin apparently is now fighting James Tennyson on October the 20th in the States. The prediction league currently stands at myself on 50 points, Ayaz on 53, and the listeners have now pulled ahead to 55 with 2 correct predictions on the weekend. So that has put you guys, the listeners, in front of Ayaz and also in front of the whole race. Congratulations on that. Thank you all so much for listening to this week's show. Enjoy your weekends, people, and we shall catch you all again next week.